Alright guys, welcome back to Into the Infinityverse, where I talk about behind the scenes of me and my good friend Jason Voorhees' 2011's fanfiction series, The Infinityverse, which is a big crossover fanfiction series. And yes, I know we're kind of slow on updating it. It's mostly because we're very busy. We're both very busy, and this is fanfiction, so we don't get paid to do any of this. So, you know, keep that in mind. Anyway, so, yeah, to tide you over, I thought I'd talk about some stuff. I don't think this is a major spoiler, because this is actually going to be brought up in the next chapter of Dark Phoenix, of the Dark Phoenix storyline. So, figured it would be alright just to talk about a little about it, but I don't think I'll delve too deep into it. And that is Sanctuary. Now, yes, Sanctuary is basically a part of the base on the orbital base called Skyward Tower, which is home to the Infinity League. It's a special wing on the base that essentially is a place where they can go to talk about their problems. It's a psychological ward. It is, well, not ward. It's more like it's a therapy office. It's where they can, talk in private about any kind of mental health or stress they're dealing with. And yes, it is obviously a reference to the DC storyline Sanctuary, to the Heroes in Crisis storyline with their Sanctuary. But yeah, and also, before we go any further, if you're wondering, are we going to do a fanfiction adaptation of Heroes in Crisis? Well, Jason and I have been talking about that. But we're gonna wait and see how this event ends before we do anything else. We're gonna wait the deciding factor is how Heroes in Crisis is gonna end. Because while I like it, I'm fully aware that not everyone else is a big fan of Heroes in Crisis right now. Anyway, so here we go. Here we go with our version of Sanctuary. So this version of Sanctuary, you're probably wondering who runs this, who's in charge. Well, that would be Jazz, Danny Phantom's older sister. She is like the Counselor Troy of the Infinity League. She doesn't really go out on the field, but she does talk to a lot of the superheroes. And a lot of the heroes do have a lot of problems that they're dealing with, but they don't want to talk about it. But they can go to Sanctuary and talk to Jazz about whatever problems they're having. And there are a few, and I guess I could talk about them, because it's mostly like ideas I had for little bits and pieces in one-shots here and there for the Infinityverse Spotlight series. Anyway, so one of the things that is going to be brought up in Sanctuary is that Guy, aka Shezow, who is basically his shtick is that he has a ring that allows him to turn into a female superhero. And Guy's kind of like dealing with the fact that he has recently been kind of like questioning his identity. He's been more or less questioning his identity, both gender-wise and and sexual identity. He's kind of coming through like, he's been, he doesn't really say, first and foremost, he doesn't reveal his identity, which Jazz basically tells everyone, you don't have to reveal your identity in this place. You can just say what you want and not tell me your secret identity. It's, identity reveal is optional here, but it's all, it remains undisclosed. But, yeah, so without saying outright that, hey, I'm a guy, one of the big things Shezow's dealing with is that she is kind of dealing with the fact that he's kind of going through a identity crisis in a way. He's kind of dealing with, I feel more at home being Shezow than I feel more like it's, that's the skin I like. It's like I like being in that costume. And at first it was just like a job for me of just, carrying on, the Shezow name, but recently I've been kind of thinking, like, I feel better as a woman than I do as a guy. Does that make me feel weird? Yeah, so that was kind of one of the things I wanted to bring up with Shezow, is that, yeah, in the show it's treated as a gag, but in here it's kind of treated like, Guy is kind of dealing with that kind of crisis of gender identity. So that's the big thing for him that I wanted to tackle in a future spotlight with him, is that he is essentially dealing with the fact that he feels more at home with being, dressing like a woman than he does dressing like a guy. And he feels like that's wrong or something like that, so that's the crux of his story. So for other characters that are kind of dealing with stuff right now, in private I should say, is that Penn is kind of going through PTSD. Penn Zero is kind of going through PTSD in that he's been kind of like his whole thing is that he basically hated after his because this takes place, by the way, after the end of Penn Zero Part-Time Hero, and he basically tells Jazz, I got everything I want. I got my family back. I got a girlfriend who was my best friend, and my enemies are all on some godforsaken world, and we made peace. I should be happy, but for the longest time, I wasn't happy. I was angry. I was just kind of like craving it, So Penn's whole thing is that when he got accepted in the Infinity League, he jumped at the chance to do it because it gave him something to do, it gave him a reason to fight. So essentially, yeah, he was actually contemplating suicide because he was suffering from PTSD and he needed something to fight. You don't just save the multiverse and go back to, being a normal person again. So being in the Infinity League has kind of given him a reason to keep going. So he was suffering from a depression. It was kind of like he was even afraid, if I kept on my path, if you guys didn't come and get me and have me join the Infinity League, I'd have put a bullet in my brain by that point. So that's what Penn's dealing in silence. As for other characters, Danny hasn't gone to Sanctuary yet. Danny has not gone, but I assure you, he will be going to Sanctuary at some point, but later on. For a very good reason. You also have, trying to think, who else, what other characters I wanted to have send to Sanctuary. Oh, yeah. A few other characters there was Jake, who is kind of, Jake Long, who is the American Dragon. He is dealing with the fact that, he is essentially lying to his friends and family about seeing Rose, who is still part of the Hunts clan. She is, he's basically harboring a fugitive. Even though she's not really a fugitive, she's more like a secret ally, but to keep her identity safe, he has to treat her like a villain. Same with Manny from, El Tigre. He has to keep his relationship on the down low with Cuervo. Zoe, in this continuity, him and Black Cuervo are a relationship. So for him, it's like, yeah, I basically have to keep my mouth shut and keep it for my friends and family and this team. Not so much because I can handle jail life. He's basically like, I can handle being arrested in prison. I can take care of myself, no problem. But the fact is, if I get, if word gets out that, we were seeing each other, and we make it a deal of not talking about the Infinity League or the Society of Supervillains. If that word gets out, they won't care, and the Society will straight up murder Zoe and everyone with the name Aves as a surname. So that's what Manny's dealing with. Also, Jazz deals with non-superpowered heroes, like more or less supporting characters like Howard, Randy's best friend, a lot of non-powered hero characters who are like support. She has a superhero support group with Sam, Sam's a part of it, several other characters. That part was more or less inspired to me, was an inspiration from the recent development in Amazing Spider-Man, where Jarvis has put together a support character self-help group, so to speak, and it's where Mary Jane goes to talk about being the girlfriend of Spider-Man, and it's also where she became friends with Foggy. She became friends with Foggy Nelson in that, so, there was that, so. Anyway, so there's a few other cases I want to talk about, but I'm afraid that might spoil some things, so I'm going to stop there. So you guys tell me in the comments below, what do you guys think of this version of Sanctuary? Do you guys like it, hate it? Comment below, let me know. Also, like I said, it's debatable if we'll do a version of Heroes in Crisis, but we'll see. Anyway, so once again, hope you all enjoyed this, and I will see you guys later.